I think Devon Witherspoon out of Illinois, the cornerback, is a very interesting prospect. He's someone who's just 5'11 and 180 pounds. So that alone is, I think scary for some teams, and some teams probably wouldn't draft him with a top 10 pick for that reason. He also did not run his 40 time, but my guess would be 4.4 speed. I wouldn't be too concerned about that. But what is Devon Witherspoon? Who is Devon Witherspoon? And is he someone who you could see being a top 5 pick, let alone top 10 or first round pick? Some people feel like he maybe has that upside. Well, let's get into it. So first off, let's look at his PFF grades, which are amazing, right? I mean, a 92 grade, that is fantastic. A 92.5 coverage grade, and still a very impressive 78.6 run defense grade. I mean, that might be the most shocking thing out of this list in general, is the fact that, his run defense was really good. He's not a huge player, but, we'll talk about it once we get into the film in just a second. He certainly plays big. He does. Did not give up a lot of completions, just a 35.5% completion percentage when targeted. That's insanely low. This is the guy who was, graded incredibly well as a first-year player. Now, you got to look at, or not as a first-year player, in his last year is what I meant to say. The reason why I'm saying, one-year player is because he's really only done this 1 year, right? 738 defensive snaps is what is causing him to be talked about so highly, as in 2021 and 2020, he did not necessarily reach this high height, which is a thing that I could see, again, turning some teams off of him, is that he really is a one-year wonder. But I'm less concerned about that at the cornerback position. Corners are fluky. Corners don't consistently play well year in and year out the way other positions do. You're going to get some good years and some bad years. So to me, I do want to see, what have you done your best year, more than I want to see what do you do consistently year in and year out. And the fact that he has had a great year is, to me, more valuable than, if you had maybe had 3 consistent solid years, is the way that I view it. The one thing I would mention, though, was that PFF grades do not predict corners very well at all. They do for other positions, but corners, not really one of them. So while I think it's a good idea to give you a baseline of what he is, we really got to watch tape before we can purely evaluate Witherspoon. So let's start off with this play. This is a good example of, I think, what he can do well. Again, we're talking about coverage here, so it's going to be a one-on-one matchup. He's covering the other player who I have circled in black on the screen. He is obviously the defender on this play, and watch what happens. Look at how right when this play begins, you see that the the player who is covering seems to be in an okay position at this point to maybe, if the throw is made, gain a few yards. But this is part of what I talked about with Witherspoon being a guy who can tackle, is that if this was a worse situation and he was a bad corner, maybe the quarterback still doesn't make the throw, but you at least could talk yourself into making a throw here of, hey, force a corner to make a tackle. That's not the worst thing in the world. Here, though, you do expect Witherspoon to come in and make the play. And again, I don't know how much that's on the quarterback's mind here, but it might be. Who knows? Anyways, quarterback does not want to make this throw, so watch what happens. You really watch Witherspoon. Watch how Witherspoon closes the gap to where that's not a throw that can be made, but the second the quarterback tries to get to the outside, he even runs over and hurries him. That's a great play and great understanding of the game of football by Witherspoon, which is what I liked about it. He just understood what he had to do in that moment, and the second that he is okay with abandoning the player who he's covering to go to the quarterback, he did it. He didn't do it too early to allow someone to get open, but he didn't do it too late to minimize his impact on the play. That's one of the things I liked about him. Going over to something like this, I think his size is going to concern people. I think some people are going to say, are you just a slot corner? Well, he's in the slot here, but it's going to be a lot of physicality on this play, which is what makes it interesting to me. For a guy who, again, is on the smaller side when it comes to corners, 180 pounds, he is definitely someone who can play physical if he has to. He is not someone who gets easily pushed around or anything like that, and this is a good example. Watch what happens. As you see, the receiver who's going up against is going to try to use his hands to get off him, but it really doesn't work, and there's just no separation. That's just not a throw that, even if there was time to throw it for the quarterback, he was just never going to get it there. He wasn't, and that's what makes it interesting for Witherspoon. And what I like about, Witherspoon a lot as a player is the fact that he can just completely shut guys down like this. And he's not someone who's going to lose on the first step too frequently. And that's something that's very exciting and why I could see a team wanting to spend a top 10 pick on him. Absolutely. Even stuff like this, I think one thing I like about him is, he's just always in position. It seems like when he gets beat, he's getting beat by good throws and good catches, which I'm fine with. And this is an example. It's, again, a one-on-one matchup, and there's not really help on this play. Now, over the middle, there is just, there is a player who's going to be covering over the middle, but he's going to kind of go to somewhere else. So really, it's a one-on-one matchup. It's going to be a slant route, which, of course, Witherspoon does not know at the time. He has to adjust to it. But watch how on this play, the receiver cuts well, but Witherspoon is all over it. It's caught. It was a great throw, great catch. That happens. That's football. A corner's job is not to make every single throw and catch be incomplete. That's just not possible. His job is to just make it hard on quarterbacks and hard on receivers, and he did that there. So now the question becomes, what is the value in a Devon Witherspoon? Of how valuable is a guy like this? Because for one thing, okay, not this freak athlete or anything like that. Not a bad athlete, fine athlete, but just a kind of a guy who comes in and plays. That's kind of where he's currently at. Where's the value in that? I don't know. It's hard because it depends on the position is really the example. I mean, for corners, it's a little bit scarier drafting someone like that than it would be for, let's say an offensive lineman. If an offensive lineman has production, you say, okay, cool, you're probably going to be good. Witherspoon has production, but there have been corners who had production in college and then didn't at the NFL level. The nice thing, though, is I think Witherspoon is quick enough to still be able to make it work. He still is a good enough athlete that I wouldn't be overly concerned. Again, not a freak athlete, but still a good enough athlete that I wouldn't be overly concerned. To me, the more interesting question is more so just with Witherspoon, how valuable is it to draft a really good corner prospect? Which I think he is. I think he's a really good corner prospect. But when do you draft that player? Because corners, I think, are incredibly underrated in terms of their value. I think a corner is, in my opinion, if you can get a great corner, that's the third most important position to get a great player in. To me, it's quarterback, wide receivers, and then corner. In today's NFL, I've talked a lot about this in other videos. A lot of data suggests that that's actually the way that you build a football team in 2023. So getting an elite corner would be awesome. The issue is that drafting the best corner on the board does not necessarily mean that you get an elite corner. They're a difficult position to evaluate. They're difficult in general. Sometimes you have great corners that just, like Xavier Howard, great corner, then randomly has a bad year. What do you do about that? Is it coaching? Who knows? But that's an issue. And so for Witherspoon, let's say you think that he's the best corner on the board. When do you draft that guy? Do you spend a top 5 pick on him? To be honest, I wouldn't hate it. I pounded a table for Sauce Gardner being a top 5 pick, and I actually liked him at number 2. To me, I would have gone Hutchinson 1 and Sauce Gardner 2 to the Lions. Obviously, Hutchinson didn't go number 1, so that changed all of it. But I was a big fan of drafting a corner, in top 5, and even here, I think there is some logic. I don't think the Cardinals should completely decide not to do that necessarily. I think that's something that should be on the table for them and something that should be on the table for the Seahawks as well at number 5. Now, again, I know Carter and Will Anderson are kind of considered higher up prospects, but at 6 then, totally understandable for me. I will say I would defend a team if they drafted Witherspoon with a top 5 pick. How about that? That's how much I like him. I think he's really good. I think he can do everything, and is fast enough to make it work at the NFL level to where if he does get a little out of position, he can come back and make a play. Wish I knew exactly his 40 time because I do care about that stuff when it comes to corners, but I'm still a fan of Witherspoon. So, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.